Hi, guys. Welcome to this episode of the Next Step Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Lee Simmons, and today is a super fun episode for me because I have invited my coach, Michelle Vroom, to come do a tell-all of the behind the scenes of how she has built an incredible, sustainable business. Now, you might remember that in episode 2 of season 3, which I think is episode 29, if I'm correct, I don't remember. I actually shared the recording where she interviewed me live in her Facebook group after my experience with her through a 6-month coaching program. So y'all can go back and listen to my side of the story of what it looks like to work with Michelle. But I want to tell you that I began working with Michelle because of the story she's going to share with you guys today. So Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun to catch up with you. Anytime we chat is always a good time.
So I remember the post. We talked about this. I was a
Mhm.
lurker. I hung out in your Facebook group and spied on you for a long time before I hired you. And the thing that clicked me over was you shared a post about being the financial provider for your family. And you kind of talked a little bit about what that looked like for you and how that played out in your developing your business. And so I just want to talk about how your business sort of got started and then your model for growth that was very different than what a lot of other coaches I was seeing were kind of putting out there.
Yeah. Ooh, and I'd love to hear what you were seeing because I'm sure I have thoughts on that. Yeah. So I started my business 8.5 years ago when my oldest, I have 3 boys at home, when my oldest was 6 months old and he's about to turn 9. So I just cannot believe like where the time has gone. It's crazy. And obviously have added more children to the mix since. I knew that I wanted to have more freedom, right, over my time. I wanted to have more freedom over my schedule, but I needed to work, right? Like there was definitely a financial need there, but I also more than that, really just wanted to continue to maintain my career. And my career just looked different. I was making a good salary in corporate. I worked for a global health insurance company prior to starting my own business. I was the breadwinner. And so when I went out on my own, obviously, our family dynamic had changed to adding a child to the mix, but then the dynamic changed between myself and my husband because no longer was I the breadwinner, right? And it was a huge financial sacrifice, right? And I'm glad we did it. I'm so glad I did it. It has since led to things that I would never have imagined. And it's fun to like look back and think about that. But that's really how I got started is just, I don't want to commute. I don't want to, I want to do my own thing, especially as a new mom, with a baby at home. And so this was back in May of 2016. I think I went back to work like, I don't know, 2 months after maternity leave because I hustled my butt on maternity leave to get clients for my business. And, I went back to work for 2 months and then told them, I'm starting my own thing. And I basically started as a done for you service provider. So, like, I didn't start out as a coach. I think that's something that some people know, but some people don't. Not that there's anything wrong with starting out as a coach. I just feel like I have such a rich perspective from having served in different roles in my business. And so I started just kind of doing done for you, like social media, website, copy, blog. Like I did a lot of things. Let's just say that. And, some were better than others, but it gave me a lot of experience. And then about a year into business, I lost 3 clients in one day. So that was like a substantial part of my revenue. And I was pregnant at the time with my second child, like literally 2 months away from giving birth. So no one's going to hire me on retainer when I'm about to give birth and go on maternity leave. Right. And so I had no way of replacing that income. And I'm a marketer saying that. Right. And so that was a big eye opener for me. Like I almost quit. I really thought about it. Like it'd be easy to just pack it in and leave. Obviously, I didn't. And what came out of that was really this realization that, like, I'm not in control of signing clients,
Yeah.
which means I'm not in control of being a provider, right? Like, that connection became very clear to me. I don't know if I said it in those words at the time, but that was like really the start of me, building a community, building an audience that produces clients so that if a client leaves or doesn't continue or whatever happens, because that stuff happens and people don't talk about it, right? Defaults on payments, like listen, I've been through all of it in the 8.5 years I've been in business. So I guess I'm going to spill all the tea today, but do you know what I mean? Like I didn't have a way to replace that. And so that's actually what then led into me without realizing it, becoming a coach, adding a coaching arm to my business, growing my community so that I could really just be in control of consistency, of stability, of predictability. And that is what has led me to the mission that I have today of helping other women become the provider. So I kind of share all of that with you as like a high level overview of just where I went in my business and what I faced. There's a lot more to tell kind of in between that. But that's what led to me really focusing on helping other women be in control of signing clients, of making money, making more money as they continue to grow in their business in different ways. Like I moved into coaching and then moved into having a group coaching program and being able to coach and serve more women without more of my one-to-one time, which was especially needed when I had my third child, my pandemic baby in 2020, right? I was there, making 20K plus cash months, providing for my family and being the sole provider because my husband lost his job for 6 months. And it wasn't a problem because I was able to deliver coaching in a different way. So I've also just been through so many different phases. And I think that being able to have stability in each of those phases has been important, is something that I'm really proud of and probably don't talk enough about. But yeah, that's my story. That's kind of like the high level overview of Michelle from 2016 to now.
That's awesome. And that's what I love about it is that, again, I was watching it from the outside for about the last 4 years. And so what's really neat is like, I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. I just knew the client facing side of it. And so it's kind of cool to be like, oh, so that's what was kind of happening when I was reading this about her journey or whatever. So, and you're very transparent. I will always say that. Like, and again, that was what very much appealed to me and why I felt I want to be working with you. It was a very easy hire for me. But one of the things as a business manager that I'm finding in the past year as I work with clients is that we consistently, as healthy, successful business owners, are moving through 4 phases. We strategize, we scale, we optimize, and then we need to sustain so that we can strategize to scale, to optimize, sustain. And so many people want to skip sustain because they start to get addicted to that growth that they've scaled and they've optimized and they've tweaked and they feel like, oh, I've got this nailed down. Let's go again. And they end up building businesses that crash. And we are asking, like, what are some of the things I've seen? I, before you, had an amazing coach. She is the one that helped get me into the business manager world. Like, there were so many things that I learned from her. But after the program ended, she went on a sabbatical and never came back. And it was, I mean, she had a $1 million coaching business and she was serving all of these people and she burned herself out. She's quite young, considering all things. And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, wow. Like, she started sharing the behind the scenes of all the things that she was dealing with. And she was really transparent and vulnerable about why she shut down her business. And I thought to myself, I could see that being me. Like, I could see myself getting excited that I hit these 10K months and then I'm just going to keep going and eventually not be able to control it anymore. And so you shared an episode where you did your 5-year income.
I shared my income from the last 5 years on the internet.
Whatever. You put it out there, right?
And
I've listened to that episode multiple times because I need the reminder that it is okay to grow a sustainable business. And so, Michelle, if you would, I would like for you to just share what that sustainability has looked like for you and why you chose to go that way.
Yeah, when I think about sustaining things, and when I started my business, I had different goals, right? Like I started my business initially with the goal of just, having some money to contribute to the family finances. As I got into it, I realized like it's actually much bigger, right? I want to, yes, provide for my family. I want to make more money, all of that. But some of those goals have shifted over the years, but the goal of like sustaining and having stability has never shifted. And the definition of stability, I think, changes, but like the desire for that has never shifted.
Yeah.
I don't know that I realized when I started my business, like what I needed to do to have stability. And I definitely don't think I had it early on. But what allowed me to shift into having a more stable business is just making different decisions, right? I think for me, sustainability is really a couple of core areas. Number one, the offers that you choose, I think, play a really big role in allowing you to sustain the revenue that you have. And I don't think enough people are talking about this, and I plan to talk more about it, is I see people, and this is not meant to come from like a judgmental place whatsoever. There is so much love in my heart for everyone doing business because God knows it is a challenging thing. But I see a lot of people talking about like creating these like low ticket courses and memberships and like creating things that require volume right away. And that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for a lot of people. And I see, coaches and experts creating, programs to help people create courses and memberships and saying, oh, it's for anybody at any stage of business, even those who are brand new. And I'm like, no, why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we making it more challenging? So I really do, when I look back on my journey, and what it has took or what was involved to sustain the degree to which I've sustained my revenue, definitely what I was selling. Yes, starting with done for you obviously made sense for me. But even when I moved into coaching, I didn't start, selling $50 coaching packages, right? They were 6-month long coaching packages that allowed me to have recurring revenue. And then when I added my group program, I mean, gosh, that like stacked the revenue, right? So to the point where in 2020, when my husband lost his job and I had, again, big moments happening like 2 months before I'm about to have a baby, seems to be kind of the pattern. I was able to sustain 20K months without a single, impact or dip to our lifestyle because I had long-term relationships with clients. I wasn't selling these short-term one-off things where it's like clients dip in and dip out. It's also just for me, sustainability is yes about revenue, but also like being able to go deeper with fewer clients. Like that's important to me. That matters. That's actually a recent shift that I'm going to be making in my business that feels really good. And so to me, sustainability is one, the offer, the pricing, like what you are selling. I think a lot of people are making it harder for themselves, undercharging, underpricing, undervaluing the work that they do. So I think there's a whole piece of that. I think sustainability has also come from me being able to do exactly what you said. Like when you talk about, this is why I hired you, because I felt like, there was that trust, there was that transparency. I've had people tell me, I feel like you're my coach before I even hire you because of the way that I show up. Hands down, I mean, are people willing to invest time and energy into doing that? No. And that's why they don't have sustainability. If I can be like totally transparent here, right? Like for me, being able to show up transparently in my community, to show up as the coach before someone hires me, that is why people hire me. And they don't just hire me. Many of my clients tend to stick around or tend to come back around, right? To hire me again. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because it's something I'm really proud of. And I think it was created by my marketing approach.
Mhm.
I also make offers, right? Like I'm not shy about telling people how they can work with me. I'm not shy about following up with past leads. I think that a lot of times, it's like, oh, if someone's not ready to buy now or they say no, in this market, we're so focused on instant gratification, which is the opposite of sustainability, right? That it's like, okay, someone said no, I need to just find the people who will say yes right now. I'm always selling for the future. This is a concept one of my coaches shared with me, and I love it. So I'm not going to take credit for it, but like I'm always selling for the future, meaning I'm thinking about, people who will buy from me now, but people who will buy from me 6 months from now, a year from now. And that has allowed me to have, a pool of leads who are always ready to buy, which again creates sustainability. I've had clients leave, I've had clients choose not to continue on, and it's never really a big deal to me because of that, right? So I think that's another piece. But what really is all at the core of the sustainability is just my mind, my state of mind, my thoughts, right? Like I am thinking ahead as the person who's already created the results that she wants. I think that was the first big shift for me that allowed me to get to, 10K plus months is what would the Michelle who's already making that do here? Like what decisions would she make? Because they're very different than the Michelle who's like, I just want to get a few more clients in the door, and I think we can all fall back into that mentality. So the mentality that you have is really important. If you want a sustainable, steady, kind of calm business, you yourself have to be that way. And I don't always feel that way. I go through periods where I'm doing a really good job with that. I go through periods where I'm not, but for me, being able to have that solid kind of, peaceful way of looking at business changed everything as well.
Oh my gosh, like so much to unpack there. I
I
can't
know.
even
I'm like,
touch
I
it
could
all,
go
but
on for
it
10 more
was
hours.
so good. So the thing that is standing out to me, and I know you've said it before, but this is why I keep coming back to your content because I needed to hear it again. What are the decisions the Alice or the Michelle who is already doing XYZ would be making? Right. And so that's always that sustainability is because you're always future forward thinking. And what a difference in the way that so many of us and my listeners are not new business owners, right? We've already experienced success. We already have the consistent revenue, but now what's next? What's the next step in this business? And so why not make decisions based on that attitude of I've already made the next step and here I am.
Yeah. Well, if you think about the 5-year income report that I shared, right? And I know your listeners don't know the exact numbers and
We'll put
they
the
don't need
link.
to.
We're going to put the
Yeah,
link
you
to
can put
that
the link. Hey, if
episode
you want to
down.
see if you're like, how much did she make the last 5 years? It's all there. But I think what really like almost why I downplay it, to be totally honest with you, is because if you look at it, it's very consistent. It's not Michelle. I doubled my revenue for a period of time before I got to like 2019, 2020, but it's like it doesn't then after that, it's not these big like massive jumps like year over year. And I almost feel like there was a time where I downplayed that and like didn't think that was a big deal. But people keep telling me like you have so much stability and consistency, like you take it for granted, right? Well, it was all a result of different choices that I made. It would be so easy when things are going well to also feel like, I've got to shake it up so I can hit these massive numbers that everyone talks about. And it's not that I'm not working toward to make more money. Like there is a goal, of course, of making more money, and in different seasons that looks different. But there are some years where I was like, nope, I'm going to sustain this. Or you know what? I want to make the same amount of money I made when I was doing done for you / one-to-one work. And I want to do it differently because I maxed out, right? Like there have been years where I've made intentional choices that weren't meant to like gratify me in the short term. They were meant to support me and my family in the long term. And those are hard to make. If I'm being honest, like it's very difficult to make those choices, which is why I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Oh
Because
my God.
also you're afraid, by the way, to like mess things up. I think when you get to the level that your listeners are at, I have never been more scared to mess things up than when I hit six figures. Like from 0 to 6 figures, I was like, whatever, like not whatever, but like,
You're figuring it
I
out.
was
I'm
I
learning.
was willing to take more risks. I
Yeah.
was willing
Yeah.
to take more risks. I am in a place now where I'm like, you need to take some more risks, girl. Like you need to take some more risks because it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go backwards and mess everything up. And I think that plays a role too.
Oh
And then
my.
we end up messing that up, right? Like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Oh, no, so you're speaking to the exact stage that I'm in, right? Like I'm on the cusp of
Yep.
like tipping over the
Yep.
six figures. And if I keep doing what I'm doing, man, I'm going to get there. It's not a problem. But I also know that I have to be able to sustain what I'm doing, but I'm not done growing either. And so like, oh, this like I'm getting free coaching right now. I kind of feel bad.
Well, no, and I mean, like thinking about the conversations I'm having with my clients too, because I think it's relevant. Like I have clients who have hit six figures, right? And it's like, well, I don't want to stop here, but there are intentional shifts and changes that they need to make that feel really scary because it's like, well, what if I like go so far back, right? Or what if I lose it all? I think we're so afraid of losing it all. And like I have one client who, she's booked out with her done for you services. She's like hit her max. And she's like, okay, like we're working together to, add on a coaching element, add on a group coaching, arm to her business, offer to her suite. Well, as soon as you do those things, and I've seen it happen with so many clients, I've worked with a lot of clients to add, that kind of an offer to their suite. As soon as we start planning for it, what happens? Client leaves, work gets cut, something happens with the other side of your business. And she and I were just having this conversation. It literally was like a moment for her to be like, right now, the scared part of me that's thinking short term would pour all her time and attention into getting another done for you client. But I'm not going to do that. Well, she's asking for coaching too. So that's smart, right? But like, I'm not going to do that because this is actually why I'm creating another type of offer. This is why I'm doing that because I want to diversify my income stream. Like everything I'm doing, nothing has changed. That was the coaching I gave her. Nothing has changed. In fact, this is just reinforcing that this is why I'm doing it because what I'm building here, yes, there will be things that she'll see in the short term. Of course, she'll sign clients and make money. She'll probably do more of that because there's people who maybe aren't ready for her highest level service that she can now, serve, which is exciting, which is wonderful. She's going to have a bigger impact, but she's building something bigger than that, right? For the long term. But it's like there's like a test that always happens when we do this, right? Because then something will happen and we'll be like, well, I just need to go back to what I was to preserve, right? I use the
Mhm.
analogy of like if you're on a beach and you're building sandcastles and you want to build a whole row of sandcastles, you can't do that laying down in the sand with your arm around the first sandcastle you built because you're too afraid that the ocean's going to wash it away because then you're not building other sandcastles. You're just protecting what you already have. And
Right.
sometimes we do need to do that, right? Like I'm not going to say that you should never do that in business, but I see that as something that actually creates less sustainability. We think it will sustain things. We think it'll be the safer option. It actually is the less safe option.
Yeah. Not only is it less safe, but let's just be honest, for visionary entrepreneurs with we have so many ideas, it gets boring. Like you get bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that then you start making rash decisions because you want something different and then you make bad ones that are not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, I want to shift the conversation in an interesting direction. And I mentioned this to you. So, one of the other episodes that I have listened to a couple of different times is when you interviewed your husband on your podcast to talk about the dynamic between you and him as you shifted from corporate to your own business, and the things that opened up for him opportunity wise, but also the challenges it placed on your family. And so I'm just curious if you would share a little bit of insight is to the dynamic between you and your husband as you've made decisions about your business, and how that financial pressure on you or on him has affected your marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even remember all the things we said in that podcast episode because I mean, things change every single year. So like I'm just going to share kind of all of it up until now and I'm sure there'll be some like new things too. He was supportive of me starting my business. I think there was definitely some like, "Ooh, how's this all going to go because you were the breadwinner," but at the same time like he was supportive of it, though a little bit, I don't want to say skeptical, but just kind of like hesitant. Like he didn't, I mean, didn't know much about the online world and like what that meant and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So when I started, I think there was definitely like support, but also a little bit of like, okay, like let's see what happens. I definitely don't think he envisioned what was going to happen. And then, I would say as I started growing, he was very supportive of like making a first investment and my first coach and all of that. As I started growing, I think he started seeing more possibility for me, for the family, and for himself. So the dynamic was that like my business was like, I was putting some money toward the bills, right? But
Mhm.
then as I started growing, he was in a job that he was just very, very unhappy with. And it actually gave him permission to then leave his job and end up, going freelance. Like I would say he's more of a freelancer than like a business owner. I think there is a difference. I don't know that we want to unpack it here, but like he's definitely like he has some full-time work like at different seasons. So he's like a freelancer, like a mix of kind of all of it,
Mhm.
but it works for him. So we are in a very non-traditional space. I don't think he would have done that if I hadn't gone first. So I think that is such a cool like piece. But then when he did that, my business covered him. So it's like we've switched roles so many different times
Mhm.
in terms of like who's the person that's, got more of the financial pressure, like who's the person that's, kind of covering things for the other. And I just think that's so cool. As I grew, I think there was this thought in my mind like, is he going to be threatened by my success? I can't remember what he said on the podcast. I think the answer was no, he wasn't threatened. He was proud of me. I think it showed him kind of what was possible for him. But then it also, and I'll be honest here, like led to some unhealthy dynamics in the sense that, uh, you know, it's really easy to let money consume you. Like, let's just say it what it is, right? There's a reason why love of money is the root of all evil is in the Bible.
Yep.
Okay. Not money, but love of money. And so as I kind of started to scale my business and really started to like make a lot of money and grow team and all that, he was supportive, but I think he started noticing before I did how that impacted me in terms of working longer hours. I'm going to just pop in my office and do like one last thing. And that did create some friction that we had to address. We've always had like sort of open, kind of constant communication about the business, but that led to some friction for sure, especially in 2020. I would say that was when, there was a lot of friction. I think he was also then at that point struggling with some of the freelance stuff and obviously like lost his job temporarily for 6 months. And so I think that created a little bit of a different dynamic that was challenging for us, involved a lot of conversations. Like I asked him at one point, like, do you want to stay home with the kids? And he was like, no, I do not. Like I always want to have a career. But then what I noticed is like he would pick up more of the slack, which was good to a point, but
Mhm.
then almost became a little bit of like an enabling of me
Yes.
like continuing to do. So we had to talk about that, right? Like we had to just kind of like look at, okay, like how are we doing in this season? I feel like every 90 days we tend to have like a conversation about schedules and all of that and just where our head is at. We weren't spending as much time together. So I would say that happened for sure. And then it kind of evened out, especially when he started working again. We actually talked about it. And he was like, you know what? In this season, while you're figuring out what scaling actually means for you and almost like descaling certain aspects of the business, I'm going to cover things with freelance jobs. Like he's actually been growing in his freelance career. And so now, while the business is still doing well and making good money, like he's taking a little bit more on in that area so that I have space to figure out like, what does this next 8.5 years of the business look like in a way that feels good? So we've just kind of flip flopped for so many years. I think that what I've done with my business has inspired him It's encouraged him. He believes in me so much. He believes in like whatever, it is that I'm building. But we're also very aware, I think more so now today than ever in this last, year of business has showed us like it is so easy for one person to become consumed by whatever it is that's going on. And we need to put our family first. We need to put our children first. We need to put our marriage first. And that is something that we've had a lot of conversations about more recently, even than the podcast, which is why I'm like, I can't remember exactly what we said. I think it was probably like along the lines of what I'm sharing, but there's also more to it than that.
I laugh, and this is so true of my husband as well. You would ask him the question because the big thing is like, I'm going to retire my husband. My
Oh,
husband,
yeah.
right?
He doesn't want to be retired.
Yeah, you asked him, you're like, if I was making all the money, like I was making enough money to cover everything, and you didn't have to work, would you stop? And he was like, no. He was like,
Mhm.
absolutely not. I'm created to work. It's what I do. And that is my husband as well. And so as I listened to the episode, I was like, oh my gosh, my husband sounds so much like your husband. And we're just getting to this part of our relationship where, because of the RV lifestyle, and I was covering things, and it was a major shift in dynamic for us. And so it's interesting. I'm very much following in that path. And my husband has to be like, Allison, it is dinner time. Shut the computer. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's like, you said you were going to be 15 more minutes and now you've lost. Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And
We've had to call each other out at different points for sure.
yeah, yeah. If my husband says walk away, that's it. I walk
Yeah.
away because
Yeah.
he's trying to protect me from overworking because he knows how ambitious and excited I get about projects. I just feel like I'm following in a very similar path. So,
I would not say, and I would say this to like any people listening who are like maybe feels imbalanced, right? Like I feel like maybe I'm the one who's working more, or he's working more, whatever. I don't think we've ever had balance. I don't think that's even something we like strive for because I think it's probably unrealistic. I think that there have been different seasons where it's like, you know what? I need to do more with the kids
mhm,
and you need to do more here. And it's flip-flopped.
yeah.
It's flip-flopped in so many different seasons. And so for us, open communication, open communication every so often. I mean, I will tell my clients because we have these discussions a lot about like how, communication with your spouse and like what all that looks like. And like every 90 days, his schedule changes periodically throughout the year. So like we have to have open communication anyway to be like, what's going on there? And there have been times and seasons where I've been needed more in my business. And I, as a mom, I don't, I feel guilty about that sometimes. And I've had to kind of get over that. But then there's also seasons where I'm needed more in motherhood than I am in business. And I don't know that I believe there's ever truly a balance. And I think that's okay.
Oh, I
That's
totally,
kind of where I've landed, as of today.
yeah. Work-life
Yeah.
balance doesn't exist. And it's a myth
No,
in my opinion, but I
no.
love that. So,
Yeah.
all right. So as we come into the last portion of this episode,
Yeah.
I want you to tell me, where
Yeah.
are you headed next? I'm just curious. What's coming in the world of Michelle Vroom?
Yeah, I think so much of it has stemmed from kind of what I mentioned earlier about realizing. I think I realized it about a year ago. I first started seeing it that I had grown and scaled so much that, like, yes, I was making great money. Yes, I was making great profit. Expenses were higher. People don't talk about that. I will be talking about that because kind of as I go and sort of unpack this because I think it's important. And I just noticed that I didn't like how I was feeling about the business, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I didn't like the pressure that I was putting on myself, some of the financial pressure, like, okay, yes, I'm making great money, but like, I also have to pay all these expenses and like, I need to keep getting volume of clients in. It wasn't that I felt out of touch with my clients because I don't think I ever would, even in tougher situations in the business, because I care so much about the relationships. But when you have a lifetime access program, you can't keep in contact with people the way that like you desire. And it didn't feel like where I wanted to go with the business. Like I felt like on my heart, you know what? Like my kids are getting older. I really, really desire to have even deeper relationships with my clients. And so I didn't like how I was feeling. I didn't like the constant chasing of money, which I had started to kind of fall into those patterns that I noticed and have heard others talk about. I was on the path, I'm sure, to a significant burnout. I know you mentioned your coach at the beginning of the episode, and I'm like, yeah, totally would have continued on that path had I not been aware of it and decided to make some decisions and shifts. I won't go into all of what those are because I don't think that's necessary. But what I've decided to do is to really rethink and reimagine like what is the next phase of serving my clients, what's working really, really well, what's not working as well that I want to change. I actually just invested in a mastermind to help me think through all of that. It's not that I haven't been thinking through it, but like to get coached around it and get support, especially as I head into a new year, which I'm really excited about. For me, it's definitely taking on some more one-to-one clients because now I have the ability to do that with my youngest, being at school, which is exciting. So I actively have been taking on more one-to-one clients, which I love. And like existing clients who have wanted to work with me one-to-one are like, this is amazing, right? So it just allows us to deepen the relationship. I love the sold out standard. Obviously, as you know, having been in that program, I'm going to pour more time and attention into it. I did let go of my other lifetime access program because I'm like, I can't do both right now. Like, I really want to go a bit deeper into kind of some of the themes that I've mentioned, during this interview. And so I let go of that. Will I bring it back in a different capacity? Probably. I just don't have an answer for that right now. And I'm allowing myself to be okay not knowing that. Right. So I think when I look ahead to the future, I really like the idea of continuing to have, availability for one-to-one, particularly in helping women who are maxed out with done for you or one-to-one work at a group program. Already, most of my one-to-one clients fit that description. I didn't intend for it to be that way. It's just how it's evolving. So I also pay attention to like signs and like, what are you enjoying? And I get to coach on more advanced things that are really, really important to me. I see sold out standard continuing to be sold out standard, but really deepening the like, how do you create stability through one offer? And then, obviously in one-to-one kind of adding on, which I think makes a lot of sense. I would love to like turn my one-to-one into a mastermind at some point, maybe a combo of like one-to-one and mastermind. This is like literally what I've been thinking about, and I'm saying it out loud here for the first time. So I don't mind, I don't have all the answers, and I think that's okay to say that.
Yeah.
In fact, I hope it gives people permission to like still move forward anyway and give yourself time and space to figure out the answers. I've been really blessed. I mean, I want to say this, and I don't say this as a brag. I say this as like, this is part of the sustainability conversation we're having. I don't have to make more money right now to like, my lifestyle won't be impacted. I could not sign any clients or make any money for the next year and be completely fine because of the sustainability that I've had. And that includes being able to build up a business savings, all of that. And I take that as like such a gift. Like I feel so blessed. And I feel like that's also why I'm so fired up about being able to do this for my clients and help my clients create that. Because in a season where I am rethinking what the business looks like, I think that's normal, probably after 8.5 years in business, and rethinking what I'm a different mom now, right? Like I'm in a different stage of motherhood. I have a gift of being able to do that. If I still felt like I got to go out and get all these clients and do all this stuff, I don't know that I would feel like I could take that gift. So I also don't take that lightly, that I'm able to kind of take things slower. Like I've taken things substantially slower this year, which is like hard to do and weird to do, but also feels so right because I don't want to be making like, snap decisions, right? I want to grow my business, yes, but I want to grow it a little bit differently, right? Like I want to grow it to a bigger place than I was before, but with deeper, fewer clients. Like that's just really feels like where I'm at. I still want to help people, create and launch group programs, but I think I have a different perspective now of what type of programs work well. And I think you can do group programs really well and still have a very hands-on approach with your clients without burning out. I want to help more women do that. And then, I love the idea of having something else that's smaller that gives you a taste of working with me, but maybe isn't lifetime access. The lifetime access thing just didn't feel great for me. It served me in a moment. It doesn't anymore. And so I think that's really where I'm headed is building the business back up. Right. And I say back up, it's not that it fell, but like building it back up and then some, but doing it in a way that allows me to just go deeper. So I don't know, I could go on and on about what I'm thinking, but that's where I'm at. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the future,
Well, it all sounds amazing, and I'm
Yeah.
excited for it as
Thank
well
you.
for you. But again, selfishly for me, because
Yeah.
when I finished Sold Out Standard, again, I said this to you, I was like, I'll be back. I don't know when, but
Yeah.
like, I just know. And so, kind of like what you were doing, I was like, okay, building out the sustainable business. And then I've gotten to a point where I went on this road trip and I was like, oh my gosh, the exact business model I asked you to help me build, I now realize it's not actually what I want to continue. It's great and I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
And the relationships that I have built with my clients, because I'm so into their business, is
Yep.
amazing.
Yep.
Can I have a bigger impact and can I do things differently? And so, but if I hadn't had that time to work on what we built, together, and then get to a point, and we talk about this in the client journey, right? I had to experience the pain that made me realize things need to change. And my coming back after 2 weeks of a road trip, I experienced the pain of what I had
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't done that, I don't think I ever would have been like, okay, I need to move
Yeah.
in a different direction.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, I'm so glad you're saying this because I think more people need to hear that. Sustainability isn't just set it and forget it and do the same thing. Like you can give I mean, the fact that I gave myself permission to take on some one-to-one clients. I could have been like, well, I haven't done that in a long time. I don't want to go back. It's not going back. That's just like making a different decision. Like, who
right,
cares? Right. I mean,
right.
I'm still always going to have a group element. Like, I don't know what else the future holds. I have some ideas. We'll see how they pan out. But it's like I didn't want to continue just focused on, I need more clients. I need volume. I need this. I need that. Like, that's not the business model I want. Like, there are people who build, $1 million plus businesses off of $97 products. That's great. That's not me. That is
Mhm.
not my vision. I felt like I was headed down that path a little bit. And I'm like, whoa, this is not what I want. Like, yes, I want to have a bigger impact. And so therefore, I do think like I would never just stay with one to one. It doesn't make sense to do that. But I want to be able to have more personal touch. I think the industry needs that. The industry is tired of these programs that people just funnel people through where it's all based on numbers. Like I think there's a medium. I'm always like the happy medium person, like the middle ground coach, like who doesn't go to extremes. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now, figuring out what that looks like. But to your point, like you get to change your mind, you get to make adjustments, and that's actually how you create more sustainability.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. And doesn't mean that the decisions we made before were wrong.
Nope.
They were
Yep.
right at that time. I don't
Yep.
regret anything about the business that I built, but now I'm realizing as my husband and I are making plans for the future, we want to move come the end of the school year. Well, that's going to mean that I need more flexibility. And so if I start now thinking about what do I need to have in 6 months to make it so that when we move, I have space to do that rather than
Yeah.
feeling the pressure of keeping up my business at the level I'm doing it while making a massive change in my family. And like you were saying, think about the person who's already there. What decisions would they be making right now?
And you've got to make them sooner. People wait too long. And I would say that everything I've gone through too in my business recently, especially with some of the things I mentioned, also very thankful for because I think it's made me not that I wasn't an in tune coach before, but like I'm not a perfect coach, right? I always have room to grow. Like if I'm not growing as a coach, then I feel like pack it up. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be able to help my clients, right? I know you feel that way in the work that you do.
Yeah.
For me, it's like now I'm so much more in tune, even more in tune and like really focused on, okay, does my client still want that thing that they're going after? Because we can tell ourselves we want it because we like what comes with it. We
Yeah.
like the money. Like, let's just be real. Like, I could
Mhm.
have continued to do what I was doing and be making probably double what I'm making right now in my business. I didn't want to though, because chasing the money will leave you empty. I
Yeah.
think we're seeing it in the industry. I think we're seeing it on bigger scales where people are actually shutting down their businesses. Thank God I noticed it before it ever got to that point and have taken the steps to back off of that, even though some of those steps and decisions were very hard and affected other people. You know what, though, at the end of the day, like, I want to pay attention to, does my client still want this? Or is she telling herself she has to have this or she should want this or whatever? Like, it's like, do you still want this? Like, if I ever sense that a client's like, not really what, we're going to talk about it. Right. And I think that that's important too. And that's allowed me to just look even differently at how I've been coaching people through to their goals as well.
Oh, I love all of that. So listen, y'all, I could tell you to follow Michelle because I think she's amazing, but I'm pretty sure if you listen to this whole episode, you now know she's amazing. So Michelle, tell everybody how they can be in your world.
Yeah, the best place to be in my world is to join the Market Like a Boss group. That is my Facebook community. It's the community I referenced a couple of times during this interview. I've had it for over 6 years. I love it. It's where I really share a lot of my heart and a lot of like transparency. I am on a stability kick these days where I'm talking about how to have stability and sustainability in your business because the reality is a lot of women are making good money and they don't feel like they have stability. And that, I mean, or they're moving into a new phase of business where it's like I need more stability. It's not stable to continue doing things this way. And so I'm really talking about that a lot more. I'm sharing a lot more parts of my story. So if you're like, I love this open, honest conversation, join my community because that's where we have more of these, including conversations I've had with Allison herself. So that's always fun. I also have my podcast, which I am going back to my original name, Market Like a Boss. I had changed the name previously. So it's instead of Like a Boss, Market Like a Boss. And I'm going to be, intentionally doing some more episodes moving forward about sustainability, stability, being the provider, all of that. So, Market Like a Boss, community, podcast. That is the best way to just get more of this. I really enjoy talking and having conversations like this because that's the way I like to market. I'm such a relationship driven person. So I anticipate doing more with that. And by the way, doing more with my podcast than I've done in the past. That is also something I've been noodling on. So anyway.
Fantastic. All right. Well, everybody go find Michelle. All her links will be in the show notes, and I will drop a couple of my favorite podcast episode links of hers in the show notes as well. Because I kid you not, she and me deep clean that bathroom every Saturday.
Man, how are we doing? I'm glad. Did we do it? Does the bathroom look good?
Oh yeah, for like a day until
I know, right?
7 people use it, and then it's awful again.
You feel so good, and then you're like, okay.
And the hair everywhere. There's hair.
Yeah.
But anyway, Michelle, thank you so much for being on my podcast today. Everybody else, I want you to go out there and be your own boss better.